MMA Roadshow, episode number 578. My name is John Morgan, and cold coffee is with me in Las Vegas in my favorite month of the year, April and October. I know you're tired of hearing about it from me, but this morning, cold coffee, I was sitting out my patio, cup of coffee in hand, just enjoying that nice spring weather, because them 115s are coming real soon. But I was enjoying myself, and I was sitting there on the patio. I was having a little cup of coffee, thinking about, all right, well, I got to go over to Cold Coffees and record the podcast, and much earlier in the week than last week. I'd like to point that out, actually on time. But I was sitting there thinking to myself, we got to talk a little Aljamain Sterling and Youssef Zalal and, what's happening at this Fight Night event, a couple of interesting matchups. I watched the media day yesterday. Was supposed to be at the media day yesterday.
Yes, I was even telling people J-Mo's going to be here, and they're like, no way. I said, he told me he was coming. So I cleared a spot and everything. Took a name tag and moved it.
Oh, my God.
And then guess what happens, folks?
I didn't make it. I didn't make it. You know what's funny is I did end up, although I was close. Like you were at the Apex. I was at the office, so I was in the vicinity
at the headquarters.
Yeah, I got summoned to a meeting that we had. So we had phone calls all morning long, and obviously not anything I can get into right now, but some announcements that hopefully we'll be having very soon. But I got called to a quick lunch meeting, and so anyway, that it was really day of. So I was lining up perfectly. I thought, man, I don't got a lot going on. It's not a fight week. Like, we do have a next-gen event next week, but, everything's going pretty well with that. The next pro event is until May 29th. It's our Hall of Famer, Aljamain Sterling, in the main event. I'm like, this is lining up perfect. And then it didn't happen. So anyway, apologies for that. And I thought you did a fine job. I watched all the media last night, and I thought you did a fantastic job.
Did you like my Rafa Garcia one?
Oh,
there was no Rafa Garcia.
I was like, what? I didn't see Rafa Garcia.
Because they started all in Spanish because they didn't bring a translator in, because obviously you can speak both languages.
Right. Yep.
But once they started going, it was just like everybody else was there was speaking Spanish. There were some people that were there. I don't know if they were there for UFC Spanish or something. And then Armando was there, but even though I think his outlet is more Spanish based.
Right.
So he did Spanish, and by that time when they were getting through that, our Slack channel's like, all right, well, I'm going to take him off the list. And I was like, well, cool. Well, I'm not going to mess with him. Because why am I going to interview him if you're not going to write a story? I was like,
what's the point?
I was like, what's the point?
Yeah, that's just trying to hear myself talk.
Yeah, and so then, so the fact that the UFC didn't provide something, I mean, even on some of the other ones, Alex Davis did Norma Dumont.
Yeah, I heard that.
Fabiano.
I wondered about that, if he preferred to be the translator.
He sat outside waiting. I don't know if she asked or whatever, but he does. I love Alex, but Alex is not Fabiano. He doesn't translate everything accordingly and like as specific. He'll compress stuff and do whatever. But also, when the Spanish speaking was going on or when Portuguese was going on, Fabiano will translate that.
Right.
But when the reporter chose to speak in Portuguese, he didn't translate it. And then she says her answer, he just lets it go or whatever. At the very end, you're going to get a kick out of this. At the very end, he stands up and he starts to walk out and he's like, your questions are really good. They should have translated your questions. I've been telling people you have good questions. And I'm looking at him and I just sort of let him go by and I was like, he had the microphone. He was the translator. He could have easily translated. So I don't know if it didn't, because the UFC didn't tell him specifically to translate everything. Like Fabiano, I don't know if they've ever told him, or he just says, hey, there's English speakers here. I'm going to translate everything. So I just thought that was funny because he's like, oh, you should have translated. I was like, bro, you could have did it. You were the translator,
I got to bust his balls on that one.
So I was just like, okay, whatever. And then, so it was interesting, but yeah. So when it got to Rafa, I was like, bro, if there was somebody translating stuff, I would have did a follow up. I was like, I hate having to, even when it was Norma, just say, I apologize if any of this was already asked to you.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
But I feel like I should ask you some questions so we get some questions in English.
That is because you hate for a fighter, because the fighter already, they'll tell you, and we all know this. I mean, the interviews are the same. There's only so much you can ask,
and
right?
I'm sure they got asked in the E&Gs when she first arrived or whatever.
That's right. But like now I got to do it in 2 languages. Like, come on, man, what are we doing here? So, all right, so we'll get into all that because I did watch everything, and I just want to off the top apologize for the late cancellation on there, and I'm glad that you were still prepared because I would have felt awful if like, well, Morgan's going to be here,
I
so
wasn't
I don't
prepared.
have to. Oh no,
I just winged it.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, when I know people are going to be there,
I know
because Oscar was going to be there,
right.
you were going to be there, and I knew there were some others. So last night I was like, I could prep, but yesterday typically I was like, I was done. I was done with the work. I was like, no, I don't want to get a lot of stuff. I'll do the follow. I'll wing some follow-ups if I need to, whatever.
You did good off the top of your head.
And then boom, right off the bat, and I'm sitting there trying to set my stuff up, and they brought Alexander Hernandez in first, and I was like, looking around, anyone? Well, I guess here we go. And so yeah, we just flew off the cuff.
Well, you do. See, you've reached a level in your career that even if you're not necessarily the tip-top preparedness, you can still make it work. You can still fake it till you make it. So
fake it till I make it.
So I respect that. Your game is strong. That shows the evolution. No longer just a cameraman. Journalist of the year, I might say. I mean, who broke the news about Ronda Rousey like years in advance?
That's true.
You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
So I'm just saying, folks, get your votes ready. All right, but listen, so we'll go into all that. But as I was sitting on the coffee, that's what I thought we were going to talk about. And then I showed up at the Casa de Cold Coffee, and what is Cold Coffee fired up about? Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini, man. I mean, this is like the central storyline. This thing that you were focused on, but it's
taking over the airways, and the fact that it's just getting more involved, like with the more recent news drop. It's one thing I think the other day when you saw it and you're just like, okay, Vrabel could have handled it a little bit better. He didn't really want to admit anything, and then he comes back days later. He says, I've had some tough discussions. And I was like, okay, that's a very political, non-giving way of saying, yeah, I had to tell my wife I've been having an affair,
bounce.
And then we go and then we hit the news that happened today. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think for anybody, I guess just as males of any age over 18, you start thinking like, did we not do all this wacky shit when we were younger? Do we still have those things where you make choices in your life to pursue a career. You make a choice in life to pursue your partner, and then when you decide with your partner to form a family, your shit better be done, set, and in order, and have all your ducks in a row. Don't have these wild things. It's one thing if you guys have grown apart and you're separated and you're whatever, but I mean, like if you're still on the surface playing the hey, we're the happy whatever, then deal with it. Marriages are work, and then let alone when you're a parent. And then if you're just going to get caught up in something off to the side and you go on these work trips and then it's just having an affair, like, that's kind of skeezy.
I told you this, man. This man was fired up,
and
bro.
Vrabel, I have a lot of love for him career-wise, coming from Ohio State and doing all the things. And this is one thing. I'm not proud of what he's done by any means, and I'm not proud how he's handled the situation. I mean, like, if you want to do some shit, just come out and own it, like stop dilly down around it because you're afraid that you're going to lose your job. I mean, nobody wants to see somebody lose their job because they can't keep their dick in their pants. But at the same sense, back when he was the leader of young athletes and young professionals at Ohio State and other stuff, like you were shaping and forming these future leaders of the world, and this is what you're doing. You can't even keep your shit in order, and let alone when you have family and you have kids. If I went out and stepped out or whatever, that's between me and my partner, and I would be a dickhead, and she would have every right to do whatever. But when you have kids too, these are people looking at you and how they're supposed to. How am I supposed to? They look at how they're going to treat their women by how you treat their mother. And then if you can't keep things straight like that, and then you're constantly lying or whatever, to them, it's not like, oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. You banged the hot reporter, man. Cool. That ain't like that. That ain't locker room talk. That's like real stuff. I mean, like, I know how you would want to carry yourself if you know that Eli's watching, and how you're doing other things. And I think any parent like that. So I don't know why I got all fired up about it, but I was just like, it's just.
Well, I found the whole thing interesting. Cause it was funny because I didn't know you were so fired up about it. Now, I don't really get too involved in. I don't want to say this is gossip. It kind of is gossip, right?
Yeah,
well, it's not gossip if it's factual reporting, I guess.
It is, but it's also, I think, anything that we wouldn't be privy to without the social medias, without the whatever. If the world wasn't so under a lens right now, we would never know,
So-
and it wouldn't bother us. you know?
Agreed. So I'm not usually into all that stuff, but this one is interesting to me because it does cross over into the world of journalism, right? So therefore I have been watching a little bit more than I would be if it was like, hey, did you see this actress and this musician or this, whatever else, where I'm like, why do I care?
Yeah.
Now, I've been saying all along, you don't know. I mean, maybe these people both have open marriages or something. Like they have arrangements, and I don't think that's the case, but I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe their families.
It was consensual. Nothing. There's no.
Because they're both married, but maybe both in their marriages, maybe in both sides, they're like, I don't care what you do. Like, let's just we're staying together for the kids, but we have our relationships or whatever.
That happens.
There's stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I'll give them the benefit of that. But the journalism side of it does make it very interesting, right? Because I mean, you do develop relationships with people that you cover, right? Now, they're not supposed to cross over into the world of sexual relationships, or if so, you're supposed to recuse yourself from covering that. I mean, you're literally supposed to go to your editor and be like, hey, I kind of developed a personal relationship, and I need to take myself off this beat.
I tripped and fell. My dick fell in there. It was the weirdest thing.
I just fell right on top of it. I don't know what happened. I did, But, so there are standards and ethics, and I think that's where where this story has a little bit more legs than a typical of just like, and why people are taking so much interest in it. And I found it a little bit interesting to see how they're going to handle it. I've always said, man, I'm never the one of like, well, she should be fired or he should be in any situation. I don't like the first thing we go to is, we'll take their income source away from them and make sure that they never have an ability to make a living in their chosen field again. You know what I mean? I'm not that person. But there are, serious ethical breaches and that sort of thing. And I feel like not that there's so few rules in journalism, because there are rules that you need to follow, but there's just basic principles. You know what I mean? Bottom line is, you can't cover people that you have intimate relationships with.
I mean, even with the MMA stuff, it was always sort of like, how can you honestly keep yourself unbiased in a situation when you get too close to a friend? A fighter becomes a friend.
Yep.
And then if you hear some, news that you're like, wow, this is really newsworthy, but you're like, I feel like I can't do my job. I can't bring this to light because I'm going to hurt my friend.
Yep.
Not that it means you don't want to be friendly with somebody, but you have to make those decisions.
Yep.
Like, am I going to go on a bender with a buddy knowing that, I might have to report on him? You probably shouldn't, because you're never going to be able.
What happens when you find out there was like, you get news that, it could be things like there was an arrest made, or maybe a drug test failure, or so, you know what I mean? Like all the things that you would need to report on as part of your job, but it's your friend, it's your buddy, and now you're like,
maybe I'll just. I didn't hear about this. I'll turn a blind eye.
At that point,
whatever.
your reputation has been impacted. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing your job anymore. And so that's why there are these ethical standards in place, because you're no longer able to back. Now, if you have a relationship with like, hey, man, me and my boy, we go hang out and we have dinner together and we get hammered, and the first thing he does something wrong, like, I'm reporting it because that's my job, then I guess your ethics haven't been impacted at that point. But that's why they're in place, and you're not supposed to do that. So that's why I find the whole situation interesting and how people are reacting to it, and kind of interesting to see what the fallout is going to be. So that's why it was interesting for me to see you kind of fired up, because typically I don't get involved in stuff like this or even pay attention to it, but it is kind of interesting how the journalism world crosses over into it.
I mean, because there's always the thing people say, even if somebody was like, oh, I wonder if he tipped her off to something. I mean, like, I guess that's part of the whole thing about journalists and their sources. Some people have better sources than other people. It doesn't mean you need to get into relationships to get these particular sources or things of that sort.
And that's how every piece of information is gotten, is being tipped off. The only other way you would do it is be illegally monitoring people's phones or emails.
Stalking, or just get really lucky and happen to be in the right place at the right time that you happen to see something. Or you overhear stuff. Like, that can actually happen.
That can happen.
But
for the most part of how do we find out, like, all this, the reporting of fights? How do we know that fights are coming together? Because you hear it from a training partner, you hear it from a manager, you hear it from the fighter themselves, the organization leaks it. Like, everything is about this having transactional relationships with people. Like, it's because they like you, because they know that they can get out information through you anonymously. Sometimes I think it's just because people want to, like, share information because people can't keep secrets or whatever. They're like, guess what I know that you don't know. You know what I mean? But so that's what reporting is. It's exhausting, to be honest with you, a lot of times. But So did she get information from him?
As
Absolutely.
far-
And how much information would he be privy to that he could have shared to her about other league things that were going on that I'm sure
or
nobody
even like
wanted?
injuries that they might have been dealing with, lineup changes, And the interesting about some of that stuff now, especially with the way that sports are, gambling. There's money. There's all kinds of stuff when it comes to knowledge about certain things like that. But not that this purely could have just been two individuals. And again, I mean, I think you're hearing about apologies, especially from Mike's side. I haven't followed it, so I'm not sure if Diana has said yes or no this happened, or if she's just staying low key. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt until she, says something or admits something. The same thing with Mike. He says I've had discussions. So the only thing that I've really seen is this thing that came out today where there's a picture of them kissing at some bar, but like 6 years ago.
Right.
And so we start doing the timeline and then the math. You figure a six-year relationship, okay? Her kids are 5 and 4. And I don't know if this is just somebody making a joke on Slack or if it's true, but are one of her kids named Michael?
I don't know.
So, with his name being Mike. And when the kids, and then, she put this tweet, it was like, as I sit here looking at my 4-day-old son Michael while trying to figure out who are the best Michaels to ever play and coach in the NFL. You're like, this is not good, possibly. So yeah, that sort of stuff. I mean, again, we have to give her the benefit of the doubt until she says something or whatever. I mean, we can't put things or whatever, but it's hard to discount. But the only thing I've seen that shows that they've had an inappropriate relationship is this picture of them right there. The hand holding, the other stuff, whatever. Come to a UFC media day and watch journalists hug each other and the UFC staff. And if you're going off of this, I could snap a picture and everybody would say, "Oh my gosh, did you see the relationship?" Yep. There is a lot of when you're on the road and then you see a lot of people, you develop friendships. Yep. Who doesn't hug a friend? Who doesn't whatever? It's. So I don't put too much in just the hand-holding or whatever, but, it's kind of hard to discount an image of somebody kissing somebody. But, again, we got to give them both the benefit of the doubt until they say, yes, I've done this or whatever. We've only heard – I've had hard conversations, but it's kind of hard, and I think most people are leaning into it. But I guess we'd be remiss to say, until they've admitted guilt, we have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. But, again, still – it does bring a lot of it fired me up just thinking of people in relationships, let alone with kids. Yeah. I come from a family where my parents were divorced and married multiple times and stuff. So maybe this hits me more than somebody that was that never did that or never went through that sort of stuff. So when you see that sort of shit, you're like, here's another motherfucker doing some stupid shit, and let alone the guy that has everything to lose from it. I mean, and the job is one thing, but just your family, and you have why jeopardize that shit? I mean, so
it ain't worth it.
It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Trust me. But
did you see? I did see today. So the latest development that Mike is going to go to counseling. But and he's going to start it. He's going to miss day 3 of the draft. Not going to miss day 1, of course. Not going to miss day 2. But I'm going to check out on day 3 of the draft.
He's like, guys, can you handle it for day 3? We good? We good?
I thought that was great.
That is literally.
At least be like, hey, it's one or the other. It's either A, I'm in such a bad position that I got to go right now because this can't wait any longer. It's an emergency. It's impacting my life, and I am wrong. Or you just go, listen, it's clear that I need to attend this. However, I do have this professional position, and part of my responsibilities in my position are being in charge of the NFL draft.
Yep.
And so I am going to work through this draft and keep my commitment to the football team. And then after that, I'm immediately checking myself in, and I'll be ready for training camp, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But to be like,
I know
I'm missing.
It seems kind of silly, but
to me that just seems like such a display of you see the sacrifices I'm making. Like I'm going to miss day 3 of the draft.
Who remembers anybody that's taken in day 3? Nobody. So, but to your point,
you do find gems. That is where the depth of the team is built in day 3.
Yes. But no, I mean, I'm glad that he realized that there's a problem and he's going to try to do stuff. And I mean, if he obviously wants to try to keep his relationship or whoever knows what the particular counseling is, he's not obligated to do any of it.
Yep.
So the fact that he is doing something, yes, maybe it would look better on paper if you're like, yeah, day 1, he's really taking the heart, he's really taking it. but then he's hurting his team. He's hurting his work. He's hurting people that potentially had nothing to do with what he did.
Yep.
So at least in this situation, he's not going to affect the other people outside and obviously the organization. And the fact that he's even doing it, kudos to that. So I really don't mind the day 3, but it is kind of silly. But yeah,
it's funny. It's just now look, if a colleague or a fighter or something like that, a female like comes up and hugs me, like I'm not gonna shove them away, but I go out of my way to just shake hands with women just because I just think it's like, why do we have to greet them differently? Like if you're gonna shake a man's hand, shake a woman's hand. You know what I mean? Just do that. Like it's not, don't let there be any concern. You know what I mean? So
let that be a lesson, woman. You come up by me, I'm gonna push you away and shake that hand. Don't give me no damn hug.
I won't do that. I'm not going to be rude and be like, oh, get off me. You know what I mean? But for me, like, I'm not going to reach out.
Cooties.
I'm not going to reach out to a woman and be like, oh, come here, give me a hug. Like, I feel like, that's inappropriate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So. You see it. I mean, it's any particular, and I think that happens all over the place. But yes, I think we as men need to be better about, kind of controlling that and watching the situation. I think it's one of those things just,
So there's the tea. I didn't know you were fine. But it is funny because I don't normally follow pop culture stories or things like this at all. But the journalism aspect of it made me.
I was going to say journalism, I guess NFL. But you're right. I mean, I guess it'd be silly if we were talking about 2 actors that did this. Then we'd be like, what are we doing? Even this feels a little bit odd. But
it is odd, but that's why I'm talking about it, because I haven't. Normally, I would never care about a story like this, but because it crosses over into the sports journalism world, especially, like I have found it very interesting. So anyway, all right, listen, we are going to talk about UFC Fight Night again. I will offer my sincerest apologies to Cold Coffee that I left him stranded on media day. It was out of my control, I assure you, but I will be there on I better not even say that. I'm supposed to be there on Saturday.
Oh my goodness. I thought, aren't you trying to earn that White House seat?
I am. I'm hoping.
Somebody tried to tell me yesterday that there's only going to be 10 journalist spots. I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think that her. I don't know.
Oh, like cage side or what have you?
I don't know who her source was that said this. I'm like, I don't know how she's privy to this unless whatever, because I don't consider. Well,
I think they're still working through the logistics, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm not quite sure. But it's funny because this particular person, like, do you think I'll be able to get in the White House? I was like, do you know how hard
to get in the White House, or to
get the White House seating? I was like, no, I
imagine it's going to be more like political reporters and stuff that'll be there than even sports reporters.
I mean, I think even then, I think they're still going to be inclined that they're going to be chosen by the Trump and Dana people or whatever. I think Dana's going to have a very select. He said he's going to have X amount of things, but I mean, you got to realize Dana has a lot of ties to people outside of the MMA world, and every one of them is going to be asking him for the tickets.
Oh yeah,
the Nelk boys, all of his actor buddies. Who knows? Maybe Kid Rock, I guess, would be on Trump's side, but if not, he's going to call Dana and say, "Dana, can you get me in?" So like. The journalists and the MMA side of this is going to be nil. There's going to be some, but it's going to be practically nil. Even when they were talking about staffers, the staff's not even going to have a large presence either.
Really?
On the White House, because that adds into the number of floating people security. You think they want a bunch of random people who just like floating around?
So they'd rather have already pre-secure, like White House staff type people doing jobs, maybe.
I mean, if anything, because you figure the fighters are going to get brought into the arena area or whatever. They're going to fight, and then they're going to leave, and the medicals are either going to happen either there or they're going to happen at the host hotel, kind of deal. They're pretty much taking and shuttling everybody off. They don't really have a structure set up like typically. They're building that claw-like thing that everybody's been seeing, that we've seen around. But typically, if it was in a venue, they walk them, after the fighters walk through all the thing, giving all their hand claps, they walk back and they're immediately walked into a medical section, whether it be just a drape and
we used to see on Dana's vlogs back in the day.
Yep.
If you're old school and you remember those, they would take it and show that on the vlogs.
There's like a chair, maybe at most, maybe a chair and a table. It used to be a table because then they would bring in their paycheck at the same time. They would get checked out and they would write them their check and they'd hand them their check right there. And then after that, they were free to go and they go to the room or whatever. So I don't know if they're going to have medical section immediately right there. There might be immediate cut section in some particular area, I'm thinking, so that because that's like you have to get that taken care of. I don't think they're going to put him on a bus and
fighter,
then take him
fighter
off.
safety. Like, let's not put him on a
let's
shuttle
not put him
if
on
we have
whatever. If we got to stitch him and do other stuff, but
you'd have to have at least some, because you're gonna have a cage side doctor anyway. So you would have at least like initial.
But
inspection.
then, like typically, because then the other stuff they have like that suture doctor. That's a different doctor, and some of the other staff. But again, that adds to the count of people that are going to be floating around the space, and I think it's going to be very, very limited. So most of the people that are going to be taking them when they're done fighting, taking them and their team, and they're getting them out. And they're shuttling them over to the host hotel or whatever, which is nearby. So, as for staff, there's not a lot of staff needed because it's staff here. They're either they're floating media around, they're picking here, this. They're going to have White House staff and their people going to be shuttling around. Like as much as it's a UFC event, when it comes to I think the logistic and the security team that's going to be there. I'm sure the UFC will have their security. But then there's going to be Secret Service, and then there's all these other security. The level of security detail. I saw something the other day, and there was like these multiple levels. This is like the highest multiple level thing because of just the VIPs and the senators and the acting members of the government. They're going to be there. That it's going to be, they all have to be sort of either checked in or whatever. They can't have a lot of extraneous things moving around. So even like UFC security guys, normally they're walking around in their black shirts and just as like UFC. And most of the security of a venue is like, okay, cool, go do your thing. It's not going to be like that here.
Yeah.
No, they're gonna be assigned probably a certain particular area, and then they hold that area and they do whatever thing.
You can't float all throughout this entire venue.
Yeah,
like you're
I don't
here.
think anybody's going to be able to free float unless it's like Secret Service or somebody at a particular level, FBI or something like
like
whatever.
The highest level of clearance.
Like the highest level, just because of anybody's potential threat to the people that are there, even though they're vetted. And we know that they're all good. In their mind's eyes, they have to treat everybody as as sort of a risk
I'm anxious
assessment.
to see it. Like I'm going to be there, and I've said from the beginning, like I think obviously it would be super cool to be one of the members that's cage side. But if not, totally understand. But I'm excited to see the whole thing, and I get like there's a lot of pushback to it of all the political ties and the political meetings and all that, and I totally understand that, and I understand people's frustration. So if anybody's angry at it or hates it or thinks it's ridiculous that it's happening, totally understand. But it is happening, and because of that, man, like I am super intrigued to witness it firsthand. I do have a CFFC event that week, so we kind of wrap the CFFC event first. I can't be there for everything the entire week.
Oh, you're not going to be there for that media day either?
There's not even a media day, is there? No, there is, right? There's a press conference, but the media day is probably beforehand.
Yeah, the media day is on, I was going to say
Thursday, I guess.
Wednesday.
Thursday media day.
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Thursday's like an off day, but they're supposedly going to be doing something else.
I thought Thursday's the press conference. I think they announced Thursday's a press conference, right? Or Friday. No, Friday press conference.
Friday's a press conference.
That's right. Because
it's all day. It's all a day later.
Oh, that's right. So it's Wednesday media day, Thursday off day, but they'll figure out something.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to. They're working on something, but I'm not supposed to. I'll tell you offline, even though I wasn't even supposed to tell anybody offline. But I'll tell you a little something that they're working on, and then
this is how information gets spread. See, you build relationships.
That's it. And then your press conference, and then the weigh-in stuff on the weigh-ins. The official weigh-ins would be like every other thing at the host hotel, and then the ceremonials will be at the Ellipse. And then Saturday,
press conference is the one that's at the Lincoln Memorial.
And
then the ceremonials are at the Ellipse.
Yeah.
And then
those are the only two like big facing venue things that people can see.
And then the concert, the Zach Brown concert, is after the ceremonial weigh-ins.
And then he's doing the
national
anthem.
Right?
I thought that was pretty fucking cool.
That is cool.
I like Zach Brown. I think I was like, oh shit, like that's cool.
Yeah, he's like a real fan too. Like, so that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, not just an artist that they pick, but somebody that's like,
I mean, he's not like Anthony Kiedis, but no, he's been into it now. Like, even I guess they were big when I saw him for the first time at a UFC event. But I mean, they're even bigger now. But yeah, no, he's a legit fan.
Anthony Kiedis is awesome, bro. That dude, first fight of the night.
He is the most diehard of all the celebrity fans, especially when it comes to like musicians. Like, there's nobody that gets there any earlier than that dude.
It's awesome.
No, I hear that Theo guy comes pretty early too.
Theo Vaughn comes early. Yeah, he's first fight of the night too.
He's pretty diehard. But no, Kiedis, he's the one I'm always like, when everybody's like, who's the biggest celebrity fan? I'm like,
it's him.
Anthony. No doubt.
No, I'm excited. So when are you flying out there? You're flying out there on Tuesday?
Tuesday.
It's a big little stretch for you, right? Because you're doing the Netflix show too, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's
So that's within like a 4-week stretch of each other, right? Like
June is crazy because it's Apex,
right?
White House, Apex.
Wow.
Back, and then so it's Rousey, whatever. And then
Rousey, whatever. Wow, look at that! He just blew off Gina Carano.
Sorry, Gina. So Rousey Carano, and then I think they're on the road, or it's an off one because I think I'm taking that week off after that. Oh, no, because that's my birthday.
Oh,
wait, no. The week after the White House is I think is my birthday because that's what, June 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so taking that week off. But yeah, before that, boom.
Look at that.
Dude, it's a little bonkers. That's actually why I asked for it off. I was like, dude, it's 3 events in a row, and one of them being the White House. I was like, I need a downtime.
Yeah, and it'll be a quicker turnaround, right? Because it's a Sunday, so we can't fly home till Monday. Yep.
Yeah, let me see. So May is Rousey Carano, and then the 6th is the Mohammed Bonfim fight in June, and then then we got the Freedom 250, and then so Freedom 250, and then we have Cop Horiguchi here, and then it goes into my birthday week.
Birth week. Well, that was
birth
very
week.
formal.
Well, it's because I'm taking the whole fucking week off. I'm taking that whole week off.
I love it, man. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the White House card. I really am. It is a very, very historic event, and it's just going to be. I mean, it is truly once in a lifetime. So for anybody that's again,
it.
Anybody that's complaining, I get it, man. I am not trying to argue with you that to the reasons it shouldn't happen, but it is happening, and so because of that, like I'm pretty pumped up for it.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I mean you can't argue with it. I mean it is the Freedom 250 card, but it's not happening in the same month as the Freedom 250 happens,
well,
you know, and it happens to be on a certain birthday, But again,
that was the only.
It's the only way it's ever going to happen.
I was told that was the only
House.
date the venue was open, man. That was the only. They wanted it, and they were like, we're booked up, bro.
We're all booked up, bro.
All we got's June 14th, man. That's all we
it's
got.
Tough, you got, bands book that stuff out years in advance. So I get it was hard.
You guys have been misreporting the whole thing. What really happened is the venue was booked up except for June 14th.
But no, it's gonna be good. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard. I mean, I think even fight week, people are gonna be like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" I'm certainly not doing it to celebrate somebody's birthday. I'm doing it because it's an
you're
event.
Covering history.
Yeah, it's gonna be a once in a lifetime event.
This to me is in a completely different level. But like, whenever COVID happened and they had the return fight in Florida, I had promised myself that I was never going to miss my son's birthday again. I missed his birthday when he was like 3. I was in the Philippines, I believe, and he's 3, so in my head I'm like, he's not going to remember this. You know what I mean? We had a celebration or whatever later,
Yeah.
But I woke up that day and I was like, why am I at a fight night event in the Philippines on my son's birthday? Like, this is stupid. And I promised, I hated the way I felt, and I was like, I'm never going to miss my kid's birthday again. And then
the hangover probably didn't help.
We might have had a couple of cocktails in the Philippines, and you're right. That didn't help. That didn't help. But then there was the opportunity to go to Jacksonville for a turn, and you remember it was like a week-long stretch of like 3 events. And, that to me, it occurred right during my son's birthday. And I was like, I can't miss this. You know what I mean? Like, this is actual history. Like, it's one thing to just be like, this is a fight night event, or well look who's fighting. I can't miss that fight. Like, yeah you can. There's plenty of fights.
Yep.
But it was history, and that's the way I feel about this one. Is that like, whether you agree with it, whatever, etc. This is history, and if you're a reporter covering the sport, like, you need to be covering this part of history.
Yeah, or a video producer.
Well, sir, do not sully the skills with which you bring to the table. You may have started as a simple video producer, but you have elevated yourself to the level, the high. Yes, my right hand is in the air, shaking, accepting the light of the exalted status at which you stand now. You are a well-rounded contributor to the space. So I look forward to seeing you out there. I'll join you later in Washington, D.C. Then you will get there, but I will be there with you. So I look forward to it. Maybe we can have a cocktail or two.
I'm
out
sure
there.
if the cocktail is going to be as priced like the hotels and the flights, it is going to be pricey.
DC is expensive. I've only been there.
It's got to be every
once.
bit more expensive than New York.
It's every bit as expensive.
I
went
crazy.
there. I went there once. I didn't even stay in there for a day. The second ever MLS Cup finals was at old RFK Stadium, and I drove from Dallas out there.
Wow.
But I stayed with a buddy that had a house in Newport News, Virginia, and drove in. And so I was just in and out for the day, right? Yeah. So that was my first time being in Washington, D.C. My second time being in Washington, D.C. was for the PFL finals, and I brought my wife and kid out there because I was like, well, if we're going to be in Washington, D.C., like, I've got to work, but you can go see all the sites. And we did go to the Smithsonian one day and all that stuff. So I did spend a week there recently, and it is every bit the price of Manhattan. Yeah. Like, it is. So, yeah, save a couple per diem bucks or something.
Oh, it is expensive.
It's not cheap to be out there. So, all right, well, we got a couple weeks till then, but we'll have to do a show later in the week. We'll have to do a show from there, right? We have to.
Yeah. I mean, what day do you think you'll get there?
Saturday?
Ooh, well.
Too late?
I'll be there.
That's true. I can just lean on you for insight. I'll lean on you for insight. Well,
we can always.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah, we'll figure something.
We'll get something. Hopefully, we can do something from the ground there. All right, listen. What we can do this week is talk about the fight that is happening here in Las Vegas, an Apex card. So, we understand the Apex cards are kind of the prospects and the build-up type fights, but the main event is a very meaningful fight: Aljamain Sterling versus Youssef Zalal. I was not participating in media day yesterday, but I was watching it afterwards. I will say the official videos that they sent out, because for anybody that doesn't know this, obviously Cold Coffee's there recording everything, putting it up live, streaming it, etc. like that. But I think this is the UFC does such a great job of helping you cover the sport without actually being there. I think it's kind of detrimental sometimes to their own success in terms of like, there's no reason for you to actually go to the media day unless you're in town, other than the fact that you get a few hours jump on it, because they send out all those interviews. They record the interviews and send them out like not that long out. Now I see they even put a lot of them on YouTube themselves. You know what I mean? So it's like you're in there helping create content for the UFC.
I should just start claiming them.
I will. That would be funny. Like, these are my questions. That's my.
That's my voice. That's my question. And it looks just like my shot.
But I will say, the official video they sent out with Aljamain Sterling starts after the bottles are taken off the table. So
I actually started mine after, but the stream, if you were watching it, you saw them put up there. But I did wait to start my edited video after the fact.
Right.
Just for the fact of, like, there was just that awkward discussion of whatever happened. I
saw a lot of people frustrated. I mean, that is the rules. Like, I mean, they see what you bring in, and they check the logos that you have on your shirts, and you can't bring in products unless it's pre-approved and it's partners and all that.
I wondered if that's what he had in there when I saw him bring the bag. I've seen guys bring stuff in there, and sometimes it's almost like a comfort thing. We've seen fighters bring whatever. And so when I first initially thought, I was like, well, I'm not getting the vibe that that's a comfort thing that he's bringing in with him. And then when he reached down in there and started grabbing the whatever stuff, that the chew or whatever that you put in there with some citrus flavored whatever I was in, or I don't know what the brand was. And then when he started grabbing the bottles, I was like, oh, there's his bottles thing. And I was like, is Nabi going to allow this? And then next thing you know, Nabi comes straight into the picture.
And they're just doing their job. I respect Aljamain for trying to hustle and push his products as he should. The UFC, they're just protecting their deals, right? You've got companies that pay millions of dollars to be, the official this, the official that. And you can't have something up there.
And then we asked him about it. We got to talk about it as well, but you just don't see the bottles. I mean, the bottles look good. I mean, you get to see the label, but I mean,
his rum is good, by the way, because he comes to CFFC events and he'll do like samplings. Yeah. And so I've had his rum is good.
Is it around here? Can you get it here?
I don't know if he has distribution in Vegas. I bet he does. He lives here. He's got to have distribution in Vegas. He has to. Yeah. I bet Lee's Discount Liquors. They have
maybe for one of these future shows, we'll pick up a bottle or something, and we could do a live taste test of the old Harbor Funk.
Done.
Just for research.
Just for research purposes, not for any other reason than for research purposes. Anyway, I thought that was interesting that became such a point of discussion. But they're just.
I wondered if that was going to be popping off in chat. I didn't look down because I was just watching it as it was happening. But I kind of had the feeling that people were going to get a little roughed up by it. But I mean, if they've watched enough of these, they understand it happens all the time. There's somebody that sits outside. So where the layout is of the Apex and where that media room is, you pass the front door, I guess you would security, and then usually one of the compliance guys is sitting right there waiting to see what they're wearing and other stuff. the bottles were in a nice leather bag. If the guy would have said, "Hey, can I look in your bag?" he would have saw the bottles, but he didn't, and I can't fault him for not seeing it. But if Aljo was trying to walk in the room with the bottles, you would have never saw them.
They would never gotten in.
You would never saw them on the table in the first place.
Yep.
So it is what it is. But I mean, there's reasons why we have to look at that stupid. We had to work at the Monster bottle forever, and then we see these other drink ones, and then we're always like, "Can you move that stupid thing?"
That's an issue when
we've been doing this forever. But I mean,
the Monster water that they used to use up there. Remember, that wasn't even a retail product. They didn't. They didn't even. Monster doesn't even sell water.
Yep.
But there was some kind of conflicting contracts, or whatever, and in order for them to get the Monster logo on, they put it on water. I thought that was interesting. That wasn't even a retail product.
But yeah, I mean, to think that. I think anybody that had watched enough of the live streams would realize that was probably going to happen. They just happened to see it live because we were, streaming live.
Yep.
If it was like most videos, just like what I put out, you would have never known that it happened. So
here's what I took out of the media day. So I like Aljamain. So I've liked Aljamain for a long time. Obviously, the connections to CFFC, but even before I was working for CFFC, I was a fan of Aljamain Sterling. I like his style.
Yep.
His grappling is fun. I've watched him. But here's what I took out of the media day yesterday. He is so good in that setting. Like, I know everybody talks about the Apex and that's what, like, press conferences and you know what I mean. Like, I don't know that he always shines in like big, like the press conference thing because I just don't think maybe that's in him. He's not Conor McGregor. He's not whatever. I mean, nobody is, of course. But I just think sometimes he doesn't come off. But in that setting, just a couple of you reporters in there, low key conversation, not having to entertain a crowd. I thought he was so just thoughtful and insightful and honest, and if you haven't watched it, I think it's worth a watch. I feel like you really got to see, because I've had numerous conversations with him outside. Obviously, again, he comes to CFFC events. I feel like you saw just him at his most honest, and that's who he is, and I just thought he came out great, and he did crack me up with his impression of Yusuf Salal.
Bro, I was like... What was that? What was that? And then he went. And then he went back in. I was like, you're gonna pay for that. He's like, yeah.
He's so good. That one cracked me up.
He was good. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, like, and I think everybody felt. I mean, there's different things. You could either have somebody walk in that room and either be like, there's not a lot of people. Why are we doing this? And have their energy be drained or whatever. Or you could be, the consummate professional, walk in that room and treat it like it's a White House press conference, like everybody's there on whatever we're, just dying to hear what you have to say. And he was very engaged, and I thought he was thoughtful, and it was very nice, casual conversation. And it could have went too. He could have been pissy that they took his bottles off the table, and he could have been like, oh man, whatever. But no, he just took it in stride and was like, hey, let's go. So no, it was good. I thought all the athletes yesterday, for the most part, were in really good spirits. Very engaged. I thought they looked good. I thought everybody looked healthy. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm excited for that fight. I mean,
such a good fight. Yusuf Salal, to me, never should have left the UFC. Like, the stretch that he had, I understand he had 4 in a row, but I've said this from the beginning of time. I just never thought he should have left the UFC. He was talented, but I'm glad he's back and he's on a run. So this is a really intriguing matchup, right? Because Yusuf hasn't fought anybody the caliber of Aljamain, but he's also on a real hot streak right now. And
I love how Aljo brought that up and like really put a lot of credence into that when he was like, because that's why I wanted to go back and ask him, like what you thought about that process, because the way he brought it up and you could tell that he was like, I never got let go. I never had to, leave here or whatever. Like, he's on a little run right now. And he had to leave the UFC and he did whatever, blah, blah, blah. But he still got cut. Right. And I was just like, some of the words he was choosing, I was just like, okay, he's really leaning in the fact that he couldn't cut it at some point, and he's not at the same level. So even though they're challenging now and they're fighting for the same sort of position, that he's just not on his level because he didn't have to do the same sort of things, So I was just like, I found it very, very interesting.
Playing a little psychological warfare, playing a little seed of doubt maybe. Because listen, look, again, I like Yusuf. A, he's a fun athlete to watch fight. Like, his style is fun. B, his energy is off the charts, and he does have a high-pitched voice when he gets excited. It's hilarious, but his energy is off the charts. Like, he is great to be around.
He was literally on, like, 110% level nonstop. I mean, like,
he's the best.
always when he starts going, because I always have to look at the volume thing because I'm afraid that he's going to peak it because he literally just blows it out because he's so excited. But I love that because most guys, you're trying to get them to like put the mic in front of their face or whatever. He is just literally was so into it and was so amped up that it's hard. I don't know how anybody cannot just sort of, he's like a cup of coffee. Like you could be sort of like half asleep. And then once he starts jabbing away, but he's smiling, he's very engaging. He looks you straight in the face as you're talking. And then like his energy was just incredible. But yeah, I mean, after he left that room, I was just like, bro, like, I don't know. Because like I was leaning Aljo coming into this because of just the experience and other sort of stuff. And all the staffers were picking Aljo, whatever. And, not that I wasn't convinced that Aljo had what it took, but honestly, after listening to Yusuf, his energy convinced me that he's there. So I sided with Yusuf this week.
Did you really?
I did.
Well, listen, he is the slight favorite according to the odds makers,
which was interesting.
I was a little surprised to see that.
I was surprised.
But that just goes to show you the respect that they have for his game. But if you look at the argument from Aljamain's perspective or the counter perspective, his two biggest wins are Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar. It's his last two wins. Those are the two biggest of his career, but both were kind of on the way, on the way down. Guys that have been at the elite level, but the guys that maybe aren't at the elite level right now at this point in their careers. You know what I mean?
I just think if I saw Aljo fight Josh Emmett right now, I don't think people would be like, "Oh, well, Aljo's fighting a depleted Josh Emmett." I think that would be a tough challenge
because that dude can put anybody's lights out.
He could put anybody's lights out, So for Yusuf to do what he did to Josh, I mean, like, say what you will, about where Josh maybe is in his overall trajectory of his career, but he's still every bit as dangerous. And if I saw Josh and Aljo fighting right now, I would have to think, I wonder who I'm going to pick in that fight. So I don't discount the fact that, it's not the whatever. If anything else, that's why I asked Yusuf. I was like, how busy were you just defending takedowns in this training camp? Because, if it stays a standing fight, I'm leaning Yusuf.
Agreed.
I think the speed, and I just think he's just the way he moves, and it's funny. When I asked Aljo, does he bring anything to the cage that maybe you haven't seen? He was just bringing up. He called him Yusuf the Elusive, and he's like, I don't know if I've really fought anybody that moves around that much or runs, but there is something to that when you got a guy that's got that much energy that can constantly be moving and choosing unique angles to strike. If you, as a grappler or heavy wrestler based, you need your fighter to be stationary, or at least to a point where you have a chance to take a shot, for whether it's single leg or a double leg, whatever. But if your guy is moving nonstop, that's going to make it awful hard. So it'd be interesting to see. But if it stays in a stand-up battle, I'm leaning towards Yusuf. If it becomes a grappling match, obviously the wrestling is heavy on Aljo, but I think they both got decent jiu-jitsu and other stuff, and I love the fact that Yusuf says he wants to submit Aljo. That wasn't how I figured the fight would end. No. I mean, unless it's unless he rocks him and then jumps on his back and secures like a rear naked choke or something along this line. I hope it's not. As much as I respect their grappling and their jiu-jitsu, I want this to be a slugfest. I want this to be a fight. I want somebody to go out.
Well, that's because you picked Yusuf.
Yeah, it's because I picked Yusuf. But I mean, if Aljo knocks him out, that'd still be fun as well.
Insane.
I just don't want to see 25 minutes of just wrestling.
Unless it's like, and I knew it would never happen, but like Aljamain and Mosar, like their fight was good, and it was like a pure grappling. Like to me, that was a fight that could have been a fight of the year type fight because it was so like back and forth and high level grappling. But a high level grappling match is never going to get fight of the year type stuff. Right. You know what I mean? So, but
I would be a grappling fan to like a high level grappling fight.
Yeah, you do. But I will say this: like this is why I find this fight so intriguing for Al. I mean, number one, it's a good fight and it's a main event and all that. But for Aljamain, like if he wins this fight, conceivably, and I know that Mosar's right there and he's undefeated, and I've been the first one saying Mosar deserves a shot. But if Aljamain wins, Volkanovski and Paramount, like if Volkanovski gets to pick two. Which is going to be now. I could see him saying, "I would like to beat the undefeated Movsar Evloev," but I don't know. I feel like if Volkanovski, if the UFC just came, so let's say Aljamain has an impressive performance and he wins, right? If the UFC comes to Volk and says, "Look, man, you're Volk, you've done everything, man, you're the man. We're going to let you pick your next opponent. Do you want it to be against Movsar or do you want it to be against Aljamain?" I feel like Volk's going to pick Aljo all day just because of like the name recognition, the star value, beating a former champion, et cetera, and for the same reason that if the UFC went to Paramount, like, "Hey, Paramount, appreciate that $7 billion you gave us. Who do you want in this fight? It's up to you. You guys pick the featherweight." they're not putting Mozart in there. You know what I mean? They're putting the name recognition. It's going to be the same thing. So I think Aljamain could conceivably earn himself a title with the shot. But if he loses, I could conceivably say Aljamain going like, I don't have enough time to build things back up. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm going to need like 2, probably 3 wins in a row to get myself back, and I don't have that kind of time and that kind of commitment.
At least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I could see him saying, this is it. So I'm intrigued by this. I'm picking Aljamain, but I'm contractually obligated. No, I'm not contractually obligated. I'm rolling with the CFFC Hall of Famer. You know that. I'm going with Aljo. So fun main event. Co-main event. I'm actually oddly intrigued by the co-main event as well because Jocelyn Edwards to me is somebody that I like underdogs. I always cheer for underdogs. And Jocelyn Edwards, I've said to me, has always been an underdog. Like she came to the UFC, and it looked like she just didn't belong in the UFC at that time, and she was a little bit overwhelmed. And I feel like she's gotten better and better and better and better. And now she's on this win streak, and I feel like this would be awesome. She talked about it. Coming from a small country, coming from the opportunities are slim, and now here she is, training in Las Vegas, and big opportunity for her. So I'm cheering for her. Norma Dumont, by the way, my good friend Alex Davis, of course, is her manager, and so I would never want to cheer against any of his clients. I know this is a big opportunity for her, and she is an absolute, just powerhouse. I will say this. She was aggressively chewing on some gum at the media day yesterday, so that makes me believe the weight cut is not necessarily as fun as she would like it to be right now at this point. But I do think Norma Dumont is the pick here, to be honest with you. I just think given her power, given her grappling abilities, I think that she probably gets this done via decision. But there's going to be a part of me that and look, not to say Jocelyn is completely over. If Jocelyn could just stay away, if she could stay on her bike and not let her get hold of and pop her from the outside, she's got great power and great striking. So I don't know. I'm oddly intrigued by this co-main event.
Yeah, she definitely has power in there, but I think when just maybe in terms of just experience in some of the fighters that she's fought, I think Norma has the edge on that, but Jocelyn has the belief. We've seen her, fight some fights and win fights that she shouldn't maybe have won.
Yep.
But yes, this is a tough task for her, but it's interesting. I feel like she's already sort of in the media day. I felt like while she was focused on Norma, she's already thinking about title shots and what could be next. If I get this, I'm going to go whatever. And I'm like, don't put the cart before the horse. You got a tough challenge to get there, and don't look past Norma because Norma, she's just dangerous, and she's just fun. It's funny. She's one of the ones that I think I used to be like, I wish I could speak her language because I feel like I hate having to go through a translator because I feel like there's times where I really want to ask her thought process.
You can tell she's got personality.
Yes, she'll give you a look like, I wish you could fucking speak because I want to do whatever, and I hate going, but I wish, because then I feel like I could get her to talk more shit. She's very polite, she's very professional about a lot of stuff, and I was hoping she would just kind of get she wants to look past me, blah 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 blah. But she was like, she's allowed to have her thoughts, and she's okay to be whatever. I was like, come on, don't give me that shit. Talk shit for me, and that could be because Alex was giving the translation, and Alex might have been a little bit more polite,
Well,
than
and
maybe
again, Alex is a very, very good friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
And so
because he's a manager at the end of the day.
But he's a manager at the end of the day, and that's a manager translating for their client. I remember, gosh, we're going back 10, 15 years or something like that. God, how long? Ed Soares and Anderson Silva. And I was having an off-record conversation with Ed Soares, and I was like, hey man, to be honest, if he says something that is dumb, will you translate it, or fix it for him? He's like, I'm gonna fix it for him. I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna.
And I don't doubt that, know. And so I didn't, and that's why. If I could speak her language, I'm like, I know when something was going on. But I think it's gonna be a fun fight. It's a fight that legit means something. I think it showed a lot of respect putting him in the co-main role. I think even there were some people that still get miffed when they see. This is not a title fight, but this is contender-ish sort of fight.
Potential number one contender fight.
Yeah, so it definitely has some clarity, and I still feel like some people are just like, why is it so high up on the card? But this is a legit good fight. But if Jocelyn can go out there and get a good win, I think the people have to stop doubting the fact of whether she's actually, champ caliber. Granted, when you look at the top of the division, and you got Kayla Harris and stuff like that, she's not there.
Tough.
You know, it's
but
tough.
Kayla's basically said, like, dude, if they, and I don't know if she'll stick to her guns, but Kayla said, look, I'm doing this, and if they want me at 45, I'll stick around and fight at 45, but I'm not sticking around for 35 because I can't keep making this cut.
No.
I don't know if she'll stick to her guns. I mean, from all I've heard, financially, she doesn't need to fight anymore.
Yeah.
Like, she's done well, so she's got money in the bank and doesn't need to. But that opens up everything for everybody else to know, hey, you know, obviously not that I'm counting Amanda out before the fight happens.
Yeah.
But just saying.
That's what I even brought up when I was trying to bring up the thought about an interim fight, you know, like with Kayla still sort of like questionable. I mean, like when do the ladies start saying, hey, it's about time for an interim fight? You know, I mean, Carlos Olberg got injured that night. People were already saying, do we have an interim? We need an interim. Oh, that sucks. He won it, and he's going to immediately have to do an interim. And I'm like, what is going on? It's still the same night, guys. He hasn't even left the building yet.
When are you coming back?
And then you got Kayla, who's supposedly, I think, supposed to start. I don't know if she's actually started training. I heard that from some of the things she said that she thought she would start training this month. So depending on whatever that means, you know, got to make sure that she's good to go. So say that's 2 months, say that's 3 months. I mean, you want to make sure that you're good to go. And I mean, like, if it starts taking some time, it might take longer. At some point, you know, when do the ladies start saying, hey, well, let's just get an interim. Let's just keep the division sort of going. But even Norma's like, I want that fight with Amanda and Kayla. I think that makes sense. I think people tried to do something else. Maybe they tried to do something else with Amanda. But Amanda was coming back to fight Kayla and unified whatever. Amanda's not going to fight somebody else for an interim. It doesn't make any darn sense, you know, because she doesn't want to risk the Kayla fight.
Yep.
Because she could lose that Kayla fight. So how about have some other people fight for the interim, and then when Kayla comes back, they could still make Kayla fight Amanda, and then after that, unify the belts.
The last I heard, I think that fight, they're thinking around like August or September, which
that's so long.
Still a long ways away.
That's like 6 months.
But if you can get the announcement made, you know.
Still.
See how this fight goes. If there's an impressive win here, because if it's a Norma Dumont decision, which she gets a lot of decisions, I don't know that
nobody's
she can really start.
Yep.
But if she goes out there and just floors Jocelyn or something like that, like, you know, judo throws her to the floor and ground and pounds her out in a minute, you know what I mean? Like, then maybe they start talking. So we shall see. So big stakes in both those top two fights. And the rest, there's some fun fights. I mean, obviously, anytime Alexander Hernandez is around, especially when he's on a run, that fight with Rafa Garcia should be fun. Davey Grant versus Adrian Luna Martinetti, that one is going to be an absolute banger. There's no question about that. And then I've been saying all week long, I'm super intrigued by like Marcus Buchecha and Rodolfo Vieira. I think they're both legends of the grappling game that are both in kind of must-win type situations. Cody Durden stepped in. I saw a lot of people talking trash about Cody Durden because obviously he has a lot of setbacks.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you, man, you can extend your career a lot if you never say no. If every time the phone rings, you're like,
that's
yep,
true.
I'll be there. You can extend your career by a lot. I think that's a valuable lesson to fighters out there is just, man, be ready and say yes. And then, of course, Lucas Brennan added against Francis Marcha as well, the son of Chris Brennan, Bellator standout. But now anytime you get a father-son that have fought in the UFC, like, I just think that's cool,
that's
man.
Pretty cool.
You know what I mean? I really do think that's cool anytime you see that. We've only had a handful of those instances, and I think it's pretty neat. Obviously, the sport hasn't been around that long. So, anyway, all right. Well, listen, my apologies once again for missing out on Media Day. I will see you on Fight Night, and I will stick around for the post-fight as well. Too.
You guys heard that.
I am committing now.
I'm going to tell you, he will not stick around.
Depends what's going on, but no, my plan.
See? He's
my plan. No.
Already.
I'm here, and yeah, we'll see. And I look forward to hanging out with you in the White House, and we'll figure all that out. So good stuff coming. Sorry again about last week for being so late. I appreciate everybody's patience, everybody that continues to support us and send us positive messages and stuff like that. It's great to know that you're sticking around. Obviously, we've been doing this a long time just because we love it, we enjoy it, and thanks for listening.